6 months of training. 6 months of treats, YouTube videos, 2 obedience classes, 1 private session with a trainer who charged $120 an hour. And Marcus still couldn't get his Labrador, Theo, to stay at the door for more than 4 seconds before bolting. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't inconsistent. He practiced every single morning before work, rain or shine. He genuinely cared. He had done more research into dog training basics than most people do before buying a car, and it wasn't working. When I sat with Marcus and watched him train Theo for 20 minutes, I saw the problem immediately. Actually, I saw 5 problems, 5 specific, fixable mistakes that were silently canceling out every hour of effort he'd put in. None of them were dramatic. None of them required a new method or a different dog or starting over from scratch. They were invisible to Marcus because nobody had ever told him to look for them. Here's what I know after working with hundreds of dogs and their owners. Most training failures are not effort failures. They are pattern failures. You're doing the work, but you are unknowingly doing a handful of things that are quietly erasing the progress as fast as you build it. Today, I'm going to show you all 5, and I'm going to show you exactly how to fix each one. Before I give you the list, I want to say something that I mean completely. If you've been working hard and not seeing results, the answer is not that your dog is difficult. It's not that you are bad at this. It's not that you need a stricter method or a more permissive one, a longer session or a shorter one. It's not a you problem. The answer is that you were taught an incomplete picture of how training works, and a few small gaps in that picture are creating outsized problems. This is actually good news, because it means the fix is surgical. You do not need to rebuild everything. You need to find the specific cracks and seal them. The 5 mistakes I am about to walk you through are the ones I see most consistently, across breeds, across age groups, across every kind of owner when training has stalled. Not the only 5 mistakes possible. The 5 that are quietly ruining results for people who are already doing most things right. By the end of this video, you are going to have a complete dog training mistakes checklist you can apply today. Not theory. Actionable corrections. Let us go. 1. You're rewarding the wrong moment. Here's something most owners do not realize until someone physically slows it down for them. Training doesn't happen in sessions. Training happens in moments. Single-second windows that either reinforce the behavior you want or accidentally reinforce something else entirely. Timing is the most technically demanding part of training a dog effectively, and it is almost never taught directly. We tell people what to reward. We almost never tell them when, precisely, to the second. The behavioral science here is clear. A consequence has to arrive within 1 to 2 seconds of the behavior for the dog to make a reliable connection between the two. Not 5 seconds. 1 to 2. Think about what that looks like in practice. Your dog sits. You say yes. Then you reach into your pocket, pull out the treat bag, unzip it, pick out a treat, and deliver it. That entire process, for most people, takes 4 to 6 seconds. And in those 4 to 6 seconds, your dog has probably shifted her weight, glanced at a bird, and sniffed the floor. What did you just reward? You have no idea. And neither does she. Delayed rewards do not destroy training, but they make it dramatically slower and dramatically fuzzier. You're building the behavior in the wrong resolution. This is why professional trainers use a marker, a clicker, or a sharp verbal yes before they deliver the treat. The marker is an instant bridge. It says that exact thing you just did, freeze it, that's what I am paying for. It gives you a full second or two to deliver the reward while the dog is still mentally connected to the behavior. The fix: load your treats before you start. Keep them accessible: bait bag, front pocket, fist. Pick a marker word. Yes, or get a clicker and start using it the same way every time. Marker fires the instant the criterion is met. Treat follows within 2 seconds. Practice the mechanics separately, with no dog, until your timing is automatic. The first time you run a 10-rep sit session with clean timing, you will be shocked at the difference. Same dog, same behavior, same treat, but the signal is suddenly sharp. 2. You've accidentally poisoned your cues. This one is invisible until you know what to look for, and once you see it, You cannot unsee it. A poisoned cue is a word that used to be clean and neutral, but has been paired with enough negative experiences that the dog now has an anxious, avoidant, or ambivalent response to it. It's not that the dog doesn't know what the word means. It's that they know exactly what it means, and they do not like it. The most common example: come. Most dogs have been called come, and then had their leash clipped on, had their fun ended, been reprimanded, been put in the crate, been forced into the bathtub. Over hundreds of repetitions. Come has accumulated a residue of negative association, even when the owner's intention was perfectly positive. The result: the dog hears come, does a rapid unconscious cost-benefit analysis, and frequently decides the risk is too high. It's not stubbornness. It's not disobedience. It's learned caution. Every time you call your dog for something they dislike, without balancing it with something rewarding, you are making your recall slightly more unreliable. Every single time. You can poison almost any cue this way. Sit gets poisoned when it becomes the preamble to nail trims. Down gets poisoned when it is used in a frustrated tone. Leave it gets poisoned when it is always shouted. The cue itself becomes a warning signal rather than a neutral request. The fix: 2 parts. First, audit your highest use cues. Ask yourself honestly, does calling this word tend to lead to something the dog finds positive or aversive? If come consistently ends playtime, you need to change the pattern. Call your dog, give them a treat, and release them back to the activity. Make coming to you always pay off, even when you are ending the session. Second, if a cue is thoroughly poisoned, the dog actively hesitates or avoids, retire it entirely. Pick a new word. Here, close, in, build it clean from the first repetition. A fresh cue with 0 history is infinitely easier to train than a damaged one. Tree, your training sessions are too long. There's a deeply ingrained belief among well-intentioned dog owners that more training time equals more training progress. An hour a day is better than 30 minutes. 30 minutes is better than 10. This is wrong. Not just slightly wrong, directionally wrong. Dogs have a learning window. Research on canine attention and cognitive fatigue consistently points to the same finding. Dogs, especially in skill acquisition phases, learn most efficiently in short, high-quality bursts. After 10 to 15 minutes of focused training, most dogs begin to fatigue mentally. Their engagement drops. Their error rate increases. And here's the critical part. Continuing to train past the engagement window doesn't produce neutral results. It produces negative results. When a tired dog makes errors, they start building failure patterns. When a bored dog starts offering random behaviors, they are learning that the training context is unpredictable. When a frustrated dog shuts down, the entire session ends on an aversive note that they'll carry into the next session. 5 minutes of sharp, high-value, high-engagement training does more for your dog's progress than 40 minutes of grinding through a fatigued session. Every time. I tell every client the same thing: end before you want to. End while the dog is engaged, while the last rep was successful, while they are still looking at you like, what's next? That's the moment that seeds the next session. That's the feeling you want them to come back to. The fix: cap formal training sessions at 10 minutes for puppies, 10-15 minutes for adult dogs. Run 2-3 short sessions per day instead of one long one. End every session with a success, even if you have to make the final criterion easier to ensure it. The dog should always leave the training context on a win. 4. You're not proofing the behavior. Your dog sits perfectly in your kitchen, every time. 5 out of 5 immediate response holds until released. You've been working on it for 2 weeks and you are feeling confident. You take her to the park. You ask her to sit. She looks at a squirrel. You haven't failed. You've hit the most common wall in all of dog obedience work, the gap between a trained behavior and a proofed behavior. A behavior is trained when the dog performs it reliably in the context where it was taught. A behavior is proofed when the dog performs it reliably across contexts. Different locations, different distractions, different people, different emotional states. These are 2 completely different things. And the path from one to the other requires deliberate, systematic work that most training programs skip entirely. The reason your dog knows sit at home, but forgets it at the park isn't a memory failure or a respect failure. It's a generalization failure. The behavior was context-specific, and the park is a completely different context, different smells, sounds, sights, and energy. From your dog's perspective, this is almost a different environment than the one where sit was learned. Every new location, every new distraction level, every new person in the room is, to your dog, a partial retraining. You have to build the behavior into each new context, but it goes much faster the second and third time. The fix, the 3Ds, proof every behavior across 3 dimensions. Distance, how far you are from the dog, duration, how long the behavior must be held, and distraction, what's happening in the environment. Change only 1D at a time. When you add a new location, drop the other 2 to easy. When you add duration, remove distractions. Build each variable independently before combining them. 5. Your emotions are in the room. This is the hardest one to talk about and the hardest one to fix because it requires genuine self-awareness in real time, under pressure. Dogs read emotional states with a precision that most of us underestimate. They are, by evolutionary design, expert readers of mammalian body language, muscle tension, breathing rate, microexpressions, posture, heart rate changes. They're not just picking up on your mood in a vague way. They're receiving detailed, continuous information from your body about your internal state. And here's the problem. When you are frustrated, anxious, tired, or discouraged, that information floods the training space. The dog isn't just hearing sit. They are receiving the full context of sit from a tense, slightly impatient human who is hoping desperately that this works. That context is data, and it creates noise. Dogs under mild stress, even sympathetic stress absorbed from their owner, perform at a meaningfully lower level. They're partially managing their own nervous system response to your emotional state instead of fully attending to the task. You can run a perfect mechanical training session, right timing, clean cue, correct criteria, and still undermine it entirely with what your body is broadcasting. The invisible 5th channel is always on. This isn't about being a robot. It's about learning to notice your own state before you enter the training context and building the skill of resetting before you begin. The fix: take 3 slow breaths before every session. Drop your shoulders. Soften your jaw. If you are frustrated mid-session, end it. Put the treats away, give your dog something easy and rewarding, and walk away. No session is worth training frustration into the relationship. Your emotional state is part of the training environment. Manage it like one. Marco's story, 6 months, 5 mistakes, 1 breakthrough. I want to come back to Marcus and Theo. Because when I identified those 5 mistakes in his 20-minute session, I didn't see a bad trainer. I saw one of the most dedicated owners I'd ever worked with. A man who had built his entire morning routine around his dog, who had spent real money and real time chasing a connection with Theo that kept slipping just out of reach. And I want to tell you what happened the moment I named the pattern. He went quiet for a few seconds. Then he said, "I've been doing all of these. I've been doing all 5 of these for 6 months." Not angry, not defensive, just this quiet recognition, the kind that arrives when something that was invisible suddenly has a name. We didn't have a magic session after that. Training doesn't work like that. But over the next 3 weeks, as Marcus worked through the fixes one at a time, tightened his timing with a clicker retired stay, and rebuilt it as wait, capped his sessions at 12 minutes, started proofing in the parking lot, before expecting park results, and began noticing when he was frustrated before he started, something shifted. Not all at once, incrementally, the way real progress actually works. By week 4, Theo was holding a downstay at the park entrance for 45 seconds, with joggers passing 5 feet away. Marcus sent me a video of it with one line, "6 months of nothing, 3 weeks of this." The difference wasn't the dog. The dog had been capable of this the whole time. The difference was the quality of the information Marcus was giving him. Once the mistakes were gone, the learning that had been blocked had somewhere to go. That's the thing about error correction in dog training. You're not starting over. In most cases, you are just removing the friction that's been there all along, and the progress that was already built starts flowing through. Theo didn't change. Marcus did. You were never failing. At the start of this video, I told you something I meant completely. You are not failing. You're repeating specific, identifiable, fixable mistakes. I want to close that loop properly now that you've seen all 5. Timing errors mean the signal your dog is receiving is blurry, not that your dog cannot learn. Poisoned cues mean a word has accumulated baggage, not that your dog is disobedient. Session length errors mean you've been training past the window of productive learning, not that your dog is stubborn or unfocused. Skipping proofing means a behavior is context-specific instead of generalized, not that your dog is selectively ignoring you. And emotional leakage means your internal state has been part of the training environment all along, not that your relationship is broken. Every single one of these is a communication and mechanics problem, not a dog problem, not a you problem in the deep sense, a system problem, and systems can be repaired. The most important thing I can leave you with is this: your dog wants to work with you. That desire is not the variable. The quality of the information you are giving them, the precision, the timing, the emotional consistency, the context building, that's the variable. And all of it is inside your control. 6 months of invisible friction removed, and Theo could do in 3 weeks what Marcus had been trying to achieve all along. You have that same unlocked room. You just needed the key. One quick thing before you go. I want to know which of these 5 hit hardest for you. Was it timing? The poisoned cue revelation? Finding out your sessions have been too long? Something about proofing? Or about your own emotional state in the room? Leave it in the comments. I read everything. And your answer is going to shape the deep dive videos I build next. If you want the full framework for fixing each of these, not just the concept, but the step-by-step protocol for each mistake, the complete guide is linked in the description. It includes the exact drill structure I use for timing repair, a 4-step cue retirement protocol, the 3 Ds proofing progression laid out week by week, and a short self-assessment for mistake 5 that most people find genuinely revealing. And if this video connected you with something you've been struggling to name, share it. Not for the algorithm, though that never hurts, but because someone in your life is probably fighting one of these 5 things right now and doesn't know it has a name yet. See you in the next one.